Can't get a good bagel anywhere but New York. Yeah.
Take away, Bob.
Good evening and welcome to Pizza Talk, or Pizza Geek Gab.
That's right.
And we have a special guest tonight who is Dave Hamilton. He's the guy with the shirt that says, "I use a Mac" on his shirt. And he is a star of stage, screen, and podcast. His podcast is called the Mac Geek Gab. And I'll put that into the chat. And if you are not subscribed to the Mac Geek Gab, you should be. If you are subscribed and download and listen his podcast, he promises that you will learn at least 5 new things every week. And I think that is pretty much true, except when it's 6 or 7 new things. So it's a very, very valuable podcast. And he's even a nice guy. I've met him, and I twisted his arm just a little bit, and he agreed to do this presentation for us. And he's going to talk about the things that were announced last month: the hardware, the software, what's different in the software, what is working, what's broken, and so forth. And I am going to turn it over to Dave Hamilton. And I think he's the kind of guy who is not upset if you ask him a question in the middle of his presentation.
Oh, yeah. Thanks. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I love getting together like this. It's, we're each other's people. Like, this is what's that? Oh, all right, great. And not only will I not be upset if you ask questions, I'll be upset if you don't. The thing that I love about these Zoom environment is that we're all equal here. So please ask questions. Let's make this a discussion. Let's talk about the things that we want to talk about. The Apple event obviously was what, a little over a month ago. I'm sure we all know what has happened or what was announced. We can certainly talk through some of it, but I don't want to recap everything. Has anyone, but the hardware was interesting to me in a few ways. And the sort of the biggest delta in the hardware that we got was watches in terms of the CPU power. Has anyone gotten a new watch, Series 9 watch or an Ultra 2 that they've been using? And specifically, has anyone gotten one that had a different Apple Watch? Kurt, are you noticing speed differences? No, you're not. Okay. I thought you were raising your hand. The folks that
just crossing my fingers, that's all.
All right. Yeah, there you go. It's a remarkable difference in terms of certainly startup time, although we don't restart our watches all that often, but that is a good litmus test to see, especially you go back to like the original Apple Watch, which took minutes to start up. This new one, it's fast, it's responsive. The watch is an interesting thing. It's not the kind of thing where even nerds update every year, but the speed delta between last year's watches and this year's watches are big enough that I think it's, if you are using certainly even a Series 7 or older, maybe that's on your holiday gift list this year.
Do you think it's worth going from an Ultra to an Ultra 2?
That's a really good question. I mean, you will get the speed bump for sure. The Ultra's not that old, right? It's a year old.
No, year old.
Yeah. So if I had an Ultra, no, I don't think, I mean, listen, if money were no object, always, absolutely, right? Of course. But however, when we have to factor in that we are trading something for this watch, and you probably could get something, the delta between the two isn't going to be terrible, but it's not going to be insignificant. So I don't think I would go for the Ultra 2 if I had the Ultra, but I don't have either. In fact, I am still on a Series 5, believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
And I have owned 2 Apple Watches. I've had the Series 0 that, believe it or not, still works, which is kind of amazing to me. It arrived on actual release day and has had nothing replaced in it. So I knock on wood that the battery has yet to swell up and explode on me, which will eventually, I'm sure, will happen. But and then I moved to the Series 5, and that was a big difference because of the always on screen. I think that was a huge delta. The speed of these new ones, as I've experienced it, is a similar improvement. And I'm really interested in seeing where we are with the watch a year from now, as developers at Apple and third party have this platform that's, almost twice as fast as even the most recent watch was, on release day. So I think we'll be able to do more with I think they'll be able to allow us to do more with our watches. And that's interesting to me. So, but I may move to the Ultra. Kevin, you have an Ultra One?
I'm an Ultra One.
Did you have a different Apple Watch before that, or was that your first one?
I had the 7 before it.
Okay.
Or the whatever came out right before the Ultra, the year before. I got it. It was less than 6 months old. The missus told her daughter that I was probably upgrading and told her that her husband could have mine, not knowing I had no idea of upgrading. So I was kind of forced into it.
Yeah. A forced upgrade. Yeah. Well, these things happen. That I've learned a couple of things when your spouse or your partner, and these are things I've read on the internet, so they must be true. I'm also a drummer. You can see one of my drum sets is there. Recently, my wife told me to go to I've been talking about a new kit for a while and different sound, and she said, you should just go to the local drum store, which is actually the largest drum store in the world. I happen to be I lead a very charmed life. And she's just go down there and talk to Shane, the owner, and he'll help you figure out what your new drum set is. And because I read on the internet that if your wife tells you to go buy drums, you go buy drums. You don't ask the question. And I believe that's also true with any technology. If your spouse, your partner tells you, go get a new iPhone, go get a new Apple Watch, you do not pass go. You don't ask any questions. You just go and do it. So,
well, I got lucky. She's one of these, I collect watches.
Same.
And so she has no problem me going out and spending 15 grand on a Rolex.
Sure.
But I spoil her. So she
no, it all works out. Yes, of course.
Yes.
I am curious, moving from a non-ultra to an ultra, the chunkiness of it, the size of it.
You wouldn't notice it.
Yeah.
Took less than 2 or 3 days.
Yeah. Okay. That was my question, is how long did it take you? But you're also used to chunky watches if you wear Rolexes and things like that.
Right. As a matter of fact, I only wear my Ultra when I'm at home because I use it for unlock my Mac, unlock 1Password, and for timers. But when I'm out of the house, I normally wear like an Omega or something like that.
Interesting. Cool. So that, to me, the watch was the biggest hardware thing. Chris, did you have a question or something to add? Unmute yourself, please.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay.
So I've got the Series 6 and came previously from the Series 0. And I'm one of these people that's waiting, right? I'm waiting for blood pressure. And a lot of people are waiting for something for the blood sampling thing for the diabetic stuff. And there are rumors that Apple has this stuff, but the FDA won't approve them because the medtech lobby is so strong and there's so much money. Yeah. And just curious what your thoughts are.
I mean, I've heard the same things, and it doesn't surprise me. Apple has, I'm not convinced. It doesn't surprise me that Apple would have developed these things. It also doesn't surprise me that Apple doesn't want to even have to deal with the FDA for their hardware, even if we take the medtech lobby out of it. And obviously you can't, I mean, Apple could take the medtech lobby out of it. They could spend their way to approval. It would not be, if they decided that's where they wanted to spend their money, they could do it. But then suddenly all of these devices, in addition to all the other approvals and hurdles that Apple has to jump through, now they have to wait for FDA approval, and they would get it. But, there's a liability there, both in terms of time investment and actual, legal liability. So I wouldn't be surprised if Apple is developing these kinds of things and waiting until they become available over the counter, like we have seen with hearing aids, right? Like I think that's where Apple is targeting. It's like, yep, let's make sure we know how to do this. And then unless there's some really compelling reason, let's just hold off until we can roll these things in a way that doesn't open us up to being truly medical devices and all that entails. That's my interpretation of this, because again, they have all the money. So if they really wanted to get the approval, that would happen. That's my, thoughts from a guy that sits in front of a microphone. So
Interesting. Thanks. No,
yeah.
Interesting.
I'm probably wrong. So, that happens often. How many iPhones 15, either regular or Pro, do we have here in the thing? Okay. So a good solid, 10 maybe or so. Yeah. I want to, I get a new iPhone every year. It's one of the things I have to do for my job. So, I went from a 14 Pro to a 15 Pro. I figured I would do it without a case because Tim and company told me how strong this titanium is. And on day 2, I dropped my phone from my pocket. It just actually leapt out of my pocket as I was walking across the driveway. And now, you'll see I have a case on my phone because the titanium, it turns out titanium really isn't as strong as steel, dollars for donuts, but you won't see it on here, but there's a nice little nick in the corner here. It actually landed on the titanium, which I thought was interesting. Of all the, but that's where it worked out. So, but for those of you that have the titanium, we can, it feels really nice. I'd forgotten how nice it felt, and then I put it back in its case, and that's going to be the end of that. So. Did anybody get the 15 not Pro? Are there any of those here? Okay, yeah, Joanne. Yeah. That to me is kind of the most interesting iPhone. Because if we look, I'm happy to share my screen, but maybe I will, just to kind of talk through this. Can I do this? No, I can't do that. Hopefully it'll let me share my screen. Yeah. 14 Pro. I had the 14 Pro on the left. There we are. That's the 14 Pro on the left, the 15 in the middle, and then the 15 Pro on the right. The thing I want to look at is the leftmost columns, because the iPhone 15 really is the 14 Pro almost.
Minus the camera.
Well, yeah, minus the camera, and for most of us, minus the always on display. I'm not convinced most of us would care about the difference between the cameras. Some of us would, but the camera in the 15 is pretty darn good. It's missing telephoto, right? But with all of the computational photography that Apple does, it's pretty close. Again, if you're really focused on taking pictures, you're always going to want the Pro. But I'm not a photographer. I just am a guy who has a phone in his pocket all the time, which means I have a camera with me. And the pictures that the 15 would take are pretty good. I mean, you get 2x, right, with optical zoom. You just don't get 3x. The always on screen, that one bothered me that they didn't put that on the 15, because clearly the hardware can support it, right? It's the same chip, it's the same battery, and it's the same Super Retina XDR display, right? So the only reason it doesn't have an always on display is because Apple decided it doesn't have an always on display. There is no hardware limitation that I am aware of that would cause that.
What's the advantage of the always on? I just got my 15. I went up from a 12.
Okay.
It did not have that. And my first instinct was to turn it off.
So I've had it for a year now with the 14 Pro, right? And I can stop sharing my screen here so we can all see each other. Initially, I decided I would turn it on for 2 weeks, right? Because that way I would get used to having it and maybe begin to integrate it into my life. And there are a couple of things over that period of time that I really started to like with it. Although I will say that after about a month and a half or 2 months, I wound up turning it off and did not turn it back on until iOS 17 came out. But the things that I like, and then I turned it on again because of standby mode. And standby mode with an always on screen might be the compelling use case that it's on my phone right now. So standby definitely has convinced me to turn it back on. The other things that I like are being able to simply glance at my phone if it's laying somewhere and see if I've gotten any notifications. That part's nice. Being able to see the time. If it was the only device around, then that would be handy. But, I've got clocks on my walls. I've got, the time isn't all that hard. And I usually kind of know what time it is anyway. I've got my Apple Watch on my wrist, although I don't usually wear it at night. I often take it off at night. So, but the seeing the notifications and that sort of thing. Joanne, is there something about it that you like?
What do you mean by always on display?
So my phone is not, well, now it's awake. Here, my phone's awake, right? And you can see my son and his cat. And now I'm going to push the button on the side here, and my phone is going to go to sleep. It is now asleep, but the screen is still on. Just like the Apple Watch, the iPhone now has an always on. The iPhones Pro now have the option of an always on display where it updates once a minute. It uses far less battery than a screen that's on, but still more battery than if the screen is off. So that's something to bear in mind. But that's what I mean by an always on screen.
Okay.
It's something I can't. Is there a world where I can just show? I might be able to show. Let's see what happens here. Oh no, I'm not gonna put it on charge because that's a lightning cable and this phone takes no.
Hey,
I
Dave,
can't
have you upgraded to watchOS 10 yet?
I have upgraded to watchOS 10. Yeah.
What do you think? Because that has have you tried the Snoopy? Because you can see it when it's off.
Yep.
So that's the always on display, but when it's off, you can still see Snoopy.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's an example of the always on display when it's actually asleep.
I find the always on display. The thing I was going to mention about the phone is this standby mode, which is really fantastic. If you put your phone on a MagSafe charger or on any charger and turn it sideways, it will go into this standby mode that shows you time and weather, and you can have it show different widgets and customize. There you go. Kevin's got it. Thank you, Kevin. So that's just his phone in standby mode.
Right.
There you go.
Is that what's compelled you to turn it always on so that you can use that?
Yeah, because I've got a MagSafe stand at my desk, and it is nice to kind of see that there and keep my phone charged. But I do find that I am using it less and less. Like I'm just forgetting to put my phone on standby and not missing it. So probably the next time I travel, I will turn off always on display just to preserve battery. And it probably
Especially if you come to
back
Arizona.
on. Right. Yeah, exactly. exactly.
Because it's hot here, so I do every battery conserving option that I can.
Interesting. Yeah. And which phone are you on?
Well, I'm on the 12 mini right now, talking
Yeah.
to you on it using the camera display, which is pretty cool, by the way.
Yep.
And I've got my case already. I'm planning on upgrading to the 15 Pro.
Are you
It
on
fits inside of this.
are you on macOS Sonoma on your computer?
I am.
Can you do me a favor and just do a thumbs up for me?
Oh, yeah. You know what? I haven't tried that yet.
Does it work?
I know it. Oh, it did
It
it.
does work.
I see it. I don't know if you see it.
Yeah, we all
Does it
see
do
it.
does it do it on mine?
What else can I do? Can I do this?
You can, and if
Will
you
that
hold
work?
it,
It's
there it
it's
is.
turning.
Yeah, there's
Oh,
the
it
heart.
did it.
Yep. One thumb will just do a thumbs up. I can't
One
be on
thumb?
Sonoma yet. Here, there you go.
Okay, there we go.
Yep.
Does
It
it
gives
work
you a
on
little
mine?
thumbs up. Are you all seeing that, or can you not see it
we are
if you're on
seeing it.
Sonoma? You're on Sonoma, Kevin? Okay.
No, you
Yeah.
don't need Sonoma to
So
see
one
it.
thumb up gives you this.
Yeah.
And two thumbs up gives you this.
And then
That's cool.
if you do like two horns like this, Melissa, hold it, lasers.
Oh, that's cool.
That is cool.
And what's really cool is with macOS Sonoma, you don't just have this will work obviously with Apple cameras, and it works with continuity camera, which is when you're using your iPhone. But
That's what I'm
I
using.
tried
yeah.
it today on my M1 Mini in my office with a
What does
Logitech
this one give
camera.
me?
One doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what else. Yeah, I'm trying to.
Yeah, there
Oh,
goes
I got
balloon.
balloons.
I was going to say,
I
yeah,
got
you get balloons
balloons.
with 2 signs. 2 signs will get you confetti falling down. That's right.
I don't know what you guys are talking about. And what is Sonoma? What is Sonoma anyway?
Sonoma's the newest version of Mac OS. So we're playing around
Okay.
with the new features.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I got roped into a demo. Sorry.
Thank you for doing that. No,
Resist.
I almost did this talk from my office because I can't use Sonoma, the latest Mac OS here in the studio yet. I don't have drivers for my audio devices, but thank you for playing along. Because that's a fun little feature, and it works with non-Apple cameras too, which is, I think it's interesting that Apple's intercepting that and intercepting it for Zoom too. Like this is third-party.
It says AI
apps.
companion is on. Does that have anything to do with that?
No, it is 100% your Mac's camera framework that is doing. This is not a Zoom feature. This is an Apple Mac OS feature.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Melissa,
cool.
Show of hands. How many? Yeah.
Melissa, just don't try any rude street gestures.
Right.
I think we've been
good.
through
I'll
all
try.
the gestures. I think we got them all.
I like the Nixon lasers.
The lasers. Yeah, exactly.
So
well,
yours
this
isn't
is
doing it?
this is lasers. That's confetti. She's gonna have
this is
that.
confetti.
Okay, does it work
This
on mine?
is
Because I'm on a
lasers.
non-Apple camera.
No,
it does not.
No, I don't see it.
What kind of Mac are you on, Kevin?
MacBook Pro 2019.
It with a non-Apple camera, it has to be an M1 Mac or an Apple Silicon Mac. So
Yeah, I use too much VMware stuff to use silicon.
Yeah. Yep. Fun. Now where am I here? Maybe
Well, you were going to talk about new features in macOS Sonoma, so we can check that off the list now, right?
Right. That's right. Yeah. The iOS 17, there's some fun features in iOS 17. If you have to have an Apple Watch for this to matter, but if you go into settings and can I share this screen somehow? I'm trying to think, but nothing happens. Let's see.
You might have to connect with a wire, and sometimes we've had to use QuickTime.
Yeah, but I think I can share my phone via AirPlay.
Is this something we can also do an iPad so we can follow along for those of us using our phones with cameras?
Yeah, let's see. Zoom. Let's see. Yeah, you can see this. Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Right?
We can see it.
Great.
Yep.
Okay, so if we go into settings and control center, there's a lot of fun things in here, but the one that I want to highlight is this one down here, which you can't see where I'm touching, but the one that says ping my watch. And you can add that to control center. And then we go and swipe down to control center. And now at the end of control center, I have this ping my watch
Ping
thing,
my watch.
which presumably will ping my watch, but it's on my wrist. So I don't know if it really, oh no, it still pings my watch, it turns out. Yep. That's the reverse of, that's the analog of what we used to do on the other side, right? Pinging our phones from our watches.
I have an iPhone 15 Pro with an Apple Watch Ultra, and I
Okay.
don't have that in control center.
Are you running iOS 17?
17.03.
Trying to think.
I have flashlight.
So, oh, you did, like, if you go to settings and control center, you can't add it?
Right, it's not in that list.
Is it already added? Is it in the top list?
Let me see. Nope.
Because I was able to do this on my 12 mini, but it's not in the iPad as an option. Interestingly enough.
Because the watch and the iPad aren't paired. I'm presuming, Kevin, that your watch is paired to that phone, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, I know it's a silly question, but you know.
No, that's okay. And it was a pain in the neck to get it moved over to this one.
Interesting.
I wonder if there's another setting that needs to be on.
Yeah, I don't know.
Davey, you sure it's not 17.1? Because
I am not on 17.1, and I'm
okay.
Well, let's confirm.
What version is your watch on, Kevin?
Let me go into the watch and I could tell you.
Good question, Melissa.
Go to general, about version 10.0.01.
All right.
Okay.
21R.
Try turning airplane mode on and off on your watch and see if it's maybe not connecting to
see if it
Bluetooth
comes
or
back to
Wi-Fi.
the phone. That's fair.
Yeah.
Well,
Sometimes you have to
Kevin's
toggle
doing
it.
that. There is something that I really like in iOS, and this has been there since iOS 16, but it's one of these hidden little tips. You see at the top of my, oh shoot, I just turned things around and now I'm sure I'm going to confuse myself. But you can reorder with things here in Control Center, whether you like it or not. Right. At the top of Control Center, you can see on mine, I've added something called Code Scanner, where this is really handy. Is
in Costco when you go to the optical department.
I'm just trying to find a QR code that I can scan. Great. So what's nice about Code Scanner, many of us probably know, most of us perhaps, probably know that we can use the camera app to scan a QR code, and it shows up at the bottom there where it says Kaspersky, right? And then you have to tap that, and then it brings you in Safari to the link in the QR code. Well, this QR code scanner takes a step out of the process. If I turn that on, it knows I'm looking to scan a QR code, and as soon as it finds it, it grabs it. I never touched the screen, and it jumped to the link for the QR code. Anytime I need to scan a QR code, I do it this way. I don't launch, and that's why Code Scanner is at the very top of my Control Center, because it makes it really easy. There is an argument to be made to have the action button on the iPhone launch Code Scanner for folks who are winding up scanning things often. So that's one of my favorite little tips. This is, I'm trying to think if there is, yeah, why not? Let's go to a web page. What am I, do I have something here? Sure, we can.
You could go to tmug.com.
Well, it's fine. I was talking to my wife last night about whether or not we should groom our short-haired cat. So in Safari, in iOS 17, and I'm not seeing it now. I don't. Oh no, I do. I get the little A button. You can tap the little reader button in the lower left, and one of the options now is listen to page. And if I choose to listen to that page, did it do it or did it just? Here we go. Oh, there it goes. It will read you the page. Control it with Control Center. This was something that took me a few minutes to figure out. It was like, how do you pause? I don't want to keep hearing about this, but yeah, and I guess you can bring up listening controls here and end them. Oh, and we learned new things. I can set the speaking rate to 2x. Nice. Anyway, we can groom our cat.
You can turn any website into an ebook. It looks
You can
like.
turn any website into an ebook.
To an audiobook.
Yep.
To an audiobook. That's really cool.
Yep.
What does it do when it gets to an ad?
That's a good question.
If you're in reader view, I would hope it would skip it.
Yeah, my guess is that it's doing it from reader, like it's leveraging reader view. It's a really disturbing thing.
Yeah.
My guess is that it's leveraging reader view to do this. So yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Well, you know what? Let's go back to Control Center because there are some other fun things out here. I have Shazam in my Control Center, and it's my second one. And I have organized my Control Center to really have the top 2 rows of things that I use regularly and need access to and don't have access to another way. So if I go to Control Center here, you can see it. I have my home stuff that you just sort of have. And then code scanner, Shazam, the TV remote, and then calculator, and then the zooming is below that. But we found something new recently that if I were to tap Shazam, it would just immediately start listening and hear and attempt to recognize the song that was playing. But if I hold down on Shazam, I get to see the history of all the songs that I have identified lately. I had no idea this was here. There you go. These are all the things. Yep.
Whoa.
You can also sync it to your Apple Music as a playlist, and I find that really helpful.
That's right. Does that happen automatically, or is that something you need to set in Shazam?
It is a toggle switch.
Yeah, and there's something else interesting in Shazam settings that seems like perhaps it's sacrilege, but it's nice that we have the option.
Wow, you have a lot of apps.
Well, I'm a nerd. My name's Dave, and I'm a nerd. And so I have to test a lot of things. But where is it here?
Say the same thing for you, Kevin, and all your smart devices.
Yeah, I bet I have you beat there, Dave. How many devices do you have in HomeKit?
In HomeKit?
Yeah.
I don't know. How would I answer that question?
Open up your home app.
Okay.
And start scrolling.
Okay. I mean,
you're almost as bad as I am.
Well, a lot of these are Homebridge devices, which is a conversation we can have separately. So they're not technically HomeKit devices, but they are made to act like HomeKit devices. So what's interesting here is I was able in Shazam. Yes, if you go to settings, you can set Shazam to sync either to Apple Music or to Spotify. So if you are not an Apple Music subscriber, but you are a Spotify subscriber, it will sync this way too. And that's in the Shazam apps settings. I don't know why we have some settings in the app and some settings in the settings app, but Apple in their infinite wisdom makes their decisions. So. Have enough of you heard the origin story of Shazam? No. Shazam is an app that predates the App Store. I got to see its first public usage. There at WWDC, back when it was like always just happening in person and all the events were in person, the first day would end with the Apple Design Awards. And then after the Apple Design Awards was a session that was never recorded nor broadcast called Stump the Experts. And it was hosted by Fred Huxham and I can't remember the other guy's name. It was two Apple employees that hosted this. And they had about 30 current and former Apple employees on stage. And it was a game show where the people on stage were competing against the audience. And the audience could present questions to the people on stage. And if they answered it, the stage would get a point. If they didn't, the audience would get a point, and vice versa. The audience could answer questions from the stage. And it was completely irreverent. It was, late at night. Apple Design Awards would run from like 9 to 10 o'clock. Then there would be a half-hour break while they kind of set things up. And then at 10:30 to like 11:30 or even midnight, this event would run. And it was a blast. It was great. It was like nerds sort of letting loose, and you could win prizes and it was fun. Once you went once, you learned that there were many different ways, if you were an observant and attentive person, to earn points. Because what would happen is someone would go up to one of the audience members would go up to a microphone and say, I would like to identify a song. And what they were referring to was the songs that were played in the 30 minutes between the end of the Apple Design Awards and the beginning of Stump the Experts. This was a carefully selected playlist of very obscure music that no one was intended to recognize. But if you knew to listen for it and you knew that you could get a point, you could earn a point for the audience by identifying a song. So this was not my first year at this. In fact, this was the year that the iPhone had been out for almost a year. Apple had acquiesced because everybody was jailbreaking their phones and installing, apps. Apple had acquiesced earlier that year and said, we are announcing, the App Store, and here's the developer kit so that you have some time ahead of WWDC to build some apps, and then you can come and meet with us, and we'll help workshop them and to help jumpstart the App Store. And so it was not my first Stump the Experts. I knew about this part of things. I listened intently to the songs because there were years when I would identify some, obscure thing, because I'm a music nerd too, not just a computer nerd. And some guy went up to the mic, and I happened to be sitting right next to him because I was on the aisle. And he says, I'd like to identify a song. And Fred says, great, which one? And he says, all of them. And Fred's face sort of went like, okay. And he proceeded to list them in the order they were played 100% correctly all the way through. And he got all of them. And Fred said, how did you get that list? He's like, I keep that under lock and key. How did you get the list? And he's like, I didn't. He's like, but you cheated. He's like, I did not cheat. I used an app I wrote. And it was Shazam. And it was written entirely for one purpose, and it was to earn points at Stump the Experts. And it wound up becoming obviously a business that they ran for a little while, and then Apple acquired them. And so there was a very happy ending to that story for them. But it was really, truly built for one purpose and one purpose only. And it was to earn points.
What a job interview.
Right? It was, and it really, like, they didn't acquire it for years. I mean, it ran as a separate business, and it was, I mean, I think they had, upwards of like 50 employees at one point in time. Like it was a really like thriving business. But yeah. Yep. All right. Any questions while we're going on here? I have other things to share, but we'll happily. How many people here use CarPlay? Great. CarPlay, I like, it's one of those things that is super functional, and I wish that it were even better. But CarPlay gets something returned to it in iOS 17. And that is, how the normal way in CarPlay, if you want to toggle between it being muted, not sharing directions via voice, and sharing directions via voice, you have to wake up the screen. You have to tap usually on the right, I think for those of us here, it's on the right. The little volume icon, and then choose from the list of 3 of all sounds, alerts only, or no sounds. That's a lot of tapping to do while you're, supposed to be focusing on the road. Well, in the upper left of the screen, it shows you the detail of your next turn. In iOS 17, tap that detail to toggle between mute and not mute. It's very simple. It's always up. You don't have to wake up the screen. It's already awake. One tap and you're done. It toggles back and forth. Now, I will say it does something else too, and you will see it. It toggles between expanded detail, which is probably what you're used to seeing in the upper left corner, and compressed detail. So if you want no voice but expanded detail, then you still have to do it the old way, and it will work. Like turning off, muting the voice doesn't shrink the detail, but shrinking the detail mutes the voice. So,
Dave, how about a very quick definition of Apple CarPlay? There might be a few here who do not have it.
Sure thing. Apple CarPlay, the best way I would explain it is you connect your phone to your car, and there are now cars that can do it wirelessly, or you can connect it with a wire. The car needs to support CarPlay explicitly. But what happens is the screen in your car becomes an external monitor for your phone. That's really what's happening there. But it's a very specific, your phone will only display very specific things on this monitor, and it is a very defined display. I'm trying to think. I might have in a screenshot album here. I may have a CarPlay screen or 2 that I could share for folks who haven't seen it yet. I'm not seeing it. Would be. I thought it would be obvious, but no, it's not. So I can't share a CarPlay screen, but it gives you a display that primarily is used for music controls and of course maps, and you can do other things. You can control your podcast player there, and it has a split screen view, which is something that's not new to iOS 17, but I had forgotten completely about until I got iOS 17 and started tapping all around. And the lower left-hand corner will let you toggle back and forth between split screen and full screen view of your of the running apps, which can also be handy. Is there anyone who has a question about CarPlay while we're here? Those are my only 2 things to share. Yeah, Melissa.
I just put in the chat for those people who want to read. What happens when you have 2 people in the same car? Can you switch between, like, can you and Lisa take turns using CarPlay in the same car, or is it only paired to one device and then that's it? Is it easy to toggle?
It's relatively easy to toggle in the cars where I've done that. I don't have any cars that support wireless CarPlay, so it's plugged in, but I do have 2 USB ports in my car. And of course, now I like to have, maybe this is a tip that when you hear it will blow your mind, but I don't like to have cables just like running all over my car. So I will find in my Amazon shopping cart the cable that I use in the car, because I just had to buy a new one. But I have 2 in the car now. One is for a lightning connector, and of course the other is for USB-C. And since Lisa still has a lightning phone, we can both plug in at the same time, and yes, we can switch back and forth. But this cable with the extendable retractable coiled cable is my favorite CarPlay cable, because I can pull it out and do something with my phone if I want. But when I unplug it from the phone, or just toss the phone into like the little tray where I keep my phone while I'm driving, the cable is not getting in my way. It's not wrapping around the gear shift. It's not, none of those things. So these are my favorite. And I will.
Okay, Bob, that's my pick for the geekiest gift guide. Okay, just know that.
Dave, you got to go
I
wireless.
think there's already one in there, because I had to buy a
Is there?
pair of
All
them
right,
as well.
cool. Aha, great minds think alike.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, you got to go wireless CarPlay, and you have to have a MagSafe adapter. You just drop your phone in place. Everything just works.
Yeah, I get that. Go ahead, Joanne.
Did you get those cables at Best Buy?
I got them at Amazon, and I put the link in the show notes. Now, the link in the show notes in the chat here. The
Same thing
link
for
that
us.
I put,
These get turned into show notes.
yeah, the link that I put in there is for the USB-C version of this cable. So, like that will only work with iPhones 15. There is a Lightning version of that cable too, and I have also bought that from Amazon. So I will see, is it still for sale? The one that I bought it's overpriced in my opinion. So search around for something better, but I will put the Lightning version.
So there's no CarPlay OS to update. It's just the phone that's plugging into the car, or do you still have to have software updates for car OS?
No, because
there's not really
there
car OS.
is no car OS. It
Right,
really
it's just
truly,
iOS.
it really truly is just an external monitor for your phone.
Is the
Go ahead,
Lightning
Joanne.
version the old version? What's
Yes.
the light? Okay.
The
It's on
Lightning
page,
connector
Dave.
is what we've had on our iPhones up until the iPhone 15. Yep.
Occasionally, my phone will not project on the screen. Why does that happen?
With CarPlay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bad
So,
cable.
it could be a bad cable. It could be like I have in my car, I have a Subaru. If my phone is plugged in to the CarPlay connector when I turn the car on, it will never identify as CarPlay until I turn the car off. Like there is no world where I can get it to work. I have to be very intentional about, now it's just habit. I start my car and then I plug into CarPlay and it's fine. But there is a handshake that happens. And when I first got my car, and the car did need a software update for the head unit. So yes, there is software for it, but it's not something that you would update every time like Apple updates or anything. This was like a one-time update. When I got my car, CarPlay was it probably disconnected. If I was driving and it was a long drive and I took a phone call and I changed the volume at the wrong time in the phone call, I would lose CarPlay, and then I would have to shut the car off in order to get CarPlay back, which is a trick, when you're going 70 miles an hour. It's not really fun to turn the car off. I don't recommend it.
One of the things that you could do is since I'm on a limited plan for data, I have a switch on my CarPlay adapter. I just flip the switch, it powers it off. You get the same thing. You get a switch that goes in between the connector and your iPhone connector.
No, I'm talking about the car needed to be turned off. I could unplug and replug my iPhone. I could restart my iPhone. The car needed to be turned off. And like, I also learned how to reset the head unit in my car while I was driving. In Subarus, you hold the volume button down until it resets. It's a Harman Kardon unit, so perhaps in other cars with Harman Kardon units. That worked sometimes, but most of the time, no. I needed to turn the car off.
Wow.
And that I never did that while I was driving. I suppose you could.
So the trick is to turn the car on and then put your iPhone on.
In my car, yes.
I think I noticed that.
Yeah,
it's not my cable is new, so it can't be the cable.
Yep.
Yeah. So,
I read that General Motors is going to discontinue Beat CarPlay for their future cars.
Correct.
Why?
They want to have a proprietary one, I guess.
Yeah, they want to control it all.
Oh, I see.
I mean, Tesla does the same thing, right? You can't use CarPlay in Tesla. But at least Tesla's a software company.
I think somebody just came out with an adapter for that to allow CarPlay in a Tesla.
Oh, really?
Is that right? Yeah.
I thought I read something about that the other day.
Got it.
So Dave,
by the way, restarting my iPhone and my watch gave me the ping my watch.
Woo. Sometimes turn it off, turn it on again. Nothing wrong with that.
The page you sent us has the USB coiled cable. You just scroll down. I'm sorry, it has the Lightning version.
Oh, well, yeah. Okay, great. Okay, good.
So it's on that page.
It's on the first page. Oh, yeah, there it is. Yeah. Right. Good.
Great idea.
It really, when I first got CarPlay, I was like, I can't live like this with just cable. Like, no, cable clutter was not for me. And I thought, wait a minute, I can like, there's somebody already made this. And sure enough, they did. And I recommend always your CarPlay cable will die because you're not going to be nice to it. So, I always have a spare in the car ready to go for when that one dies. I can just take it out, throw it away, put a new one in. And when those cables die or when they start getting flaky, just throw them away. Don't think that you're the one that's going to be able to like magically with your hands fix them. Go ahead, Jerry.
Is there any advantage to using wireless or wired for my CarPlay?
I mean, I've used both. I don't have a car with wireless, but I've rented cars with wireless. It's really convenient to have wireless CarPlay. I mean, it's fantastic because you just get in and you don't have to do anything with your phone. Your phone, in fact, can stay in your pocket and it can still be on the display and, you know, control your maps and your music and all of that stuff.
Well, see, I was told that your maps would be more accurate if you had it plugged in.
No.
In other words, huh? Because
No,
this gets me all the time. It says you turn 50 feet or something, and I'm already there. What do they need 50 feet? You know?
Yeah, I don't think the
wire is not going to help that. Huh?
No, I mean, it will charge your phone. That's the one thing that it does is obviously, but otherwise, and your phone will use more battery, if you're on wireless CarPlay and using directions, you know, you're using Wi-Fi, right? That's how it works. So Wi-Fi chews up a ton of battery, and then also using GPS and location services uses battery. So, you know, for a quick 15-minute ride here and there, it's nice to be able to leave your phone in your pocket, but otherwise you're going to want to put it on charge. As Kevin points out, some cars come built in with a Qi charger that you can drop your phone onto the pad. And if not, you can, you know, like Scoshi's probably the market leader in car Qi MagSafe adapters, and you can have all that too. So you pick your poison.
Yeah, and they may actually make a wireless adapter that I use on my car, and it's perfect.
When those first came out, they supported pretty much every car except Subaru, which is what I drive. I believe they have updated it, and now I think they work on Subaru. And so I think what you're talking about, Kevin, is an adapter that plugs into the USB port of your car, right, and makes the car think you're plugged in USB,
your
but
phone.
Really you're not. Yeah.
Yeah, and like you, I'm a neat freak, so I have right angle connectors that go up and under the dash, so you can't even see the cables, because that would drive me crazy.
Yeah. I'm really not that much of a neat freak. It's more just the clutter of, I want my cable to always be where my cable is. And I live in an area where for 3 months of the year, we have snow on the ground, and you're getting in the car with, you know, boots that now become water. And what invariably would happen, even with a, you know, little 3-foot lightning cable, is I would get in the car and find it sitting in a puddle in my floor mats. And it was like, okay, I can't live like this. And I did. I bought my car like the week between Christmas and New Year's, which, as an aside, fantastic time of year to buy a car. Dealers are like, they made me a deal that I was not going to buy a brand new car, and they sold it to me for less than I could have sold it for out of my driveway used. So, and also I went in immediately to register my car on December. I bought it on the 28th. I went in on the 29th to register it. And the person at town hall says, you know, you get 20-day grace period. I'm like, yeah, but I don't need a grace period. She's like, right. But if you wait until next week, you're registering a 1-year-old car and you're paying less taxes. I was like, all right, see you next week.
All right.
Happy New Year.
I'm buying a car on my birthday.
Yeah. What, is your birthday late December?
December 28th. When you
No,
buy your
there
car.
you go. Yep. Yeah.
One phrase that you'll really appreciate about Tucson is when people complain about the heat. The one thing that I really like about the heat is that you don't have to shovel it.
There's no shoveling sunshine,
Right.
man.
You know, the shovels,
right.
no shoveling sunshine.
That's right. Yeah.
I worry about that with wireless charging with the Qi because it adds heat to it. So just those extra couple degrees when it's triple digits out here can make a difference. So can
But
you
yeah.
can you still
they
plug
have
in your
chargers now that have
phone wired?
They have them now that have
Oh,
cryo technology in them, so it cools down.
oh, cool.
So even when it's 110 outside, your phone will stay fairly cool charging.
And Scotia
That's good
actually
to know because
has
I struggle with
one.
that a lot.
Let me look and see if I can find it. But Scotia has one that's got a fan built into it.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I don't know. I can't pull it up. Their website. Safari has decided to be done, I suppose. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, you can get those. But yeah, Qi is, especially if you're using a case, MagSafe or even just any kind of, Qi charging, it adds a lot of heat for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
It's definitely an issue out here. We don't have
Yeah.
the snow to cool us down.
You're right. Yeah. Yeah. We're about to have it. Farmer's Almanac says
They
we're
should
going to
do
get
all
very
the
good snow.
battery testing out here in the extreme heat. They should do all that testing. Just hand them over.
Yeah.
I'll tell you how they work
Yeah.
or how they don't.
Yeah.
I'll tell you how they fail.
Yeah, Apple, designing these products in California, I know they put that on them as a badge of honor, but it really it is not. It is often obvious that the products have been designed in California. Heat, for one, but even like especially in the early days of the iPhone, where cell service was pretty weak in many places. And then you'd visit California and be like, oh my God, like this is like Wi-Fi everywhere. How do they, and they needed engineers in like, the middle of Kansas to test their stuff. Well,
They should have driven them out Route 66.
that's
really.
right. Yeah, exactly. But
Well, Dave, you know the origin of that, right? They started doing that when all the manufacturing moved overseas. Because
right.
people got weirded out, like my iPhone's made in China or India or something now.
Right,
But,
right.
And so they started saying designed in California.
Yeah, no, I know
That's
why
the
they
origin.
did it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was, I know why Intel put the Intel Inside label on there. And I say both of those as warning labels. It's like, be aware. Well, the best example, and this will land completely flat. So I'll do it very quickly, but it will land completely flat with people who live in Arizona. But like the Nest thermostats, when they came out, everybody loved them. Not here, because the Nest thermostat, they announced it as a learning thermostat. And it was like, oh, we're going to figure out the right way to run your home. If you live in New England and you don't already know how and when you should have your thermostats moving up and down in the winter, it will cost you thousands of dollars extra. You do not, there is no amount of learning that the Nest could do that would be better than what you already know. And that it was a pain in the neck when I first got a Nest. It was like, how do I turn that off? They're like, well, we don't really intend to use that way. I'm like, have you ever been in New England? And so there's a company, Ecobee, that's from Toronto. Guess which one is better at figuring out how to do something in a cold climate? They barely need thermostats.
There's
in San
HVAC
Francisco.
companies. HVAC companies out here actually call that Google Nest the pest for that reason, because they get, out of all the service calls that they get more calls for the pest. And so they are recommending the Ecobee.
There you go. Yeah. It's great. Yep. So
Dave, one of the biggest advantages to the watch we haven't mentioned is the fact that paired with Apple Maps, it does the blinker sounds for left and right.
Yeah.
And it will figure out which driveway, if they're or which turn, if they're literally like 20 yards apart. And
say this? What's this?
The Apple Watch, right? When you're driving, it pairs with Apple Maps so that I can just look at the watch screen, which is legal in all states, by the way.
Right.
And, it'll make the blinker sound for left and right. And you can tell the difference. God knows how, but you can tell the difference.
Interesting.
If you got two driveways that are 20 yards apart, it will tell you which one.
Yes.
Because it'll go off. And when that goes off, it's the very next turn.
It's time to go.
Only once in like 10 years has that ever, well, since 2015 when the watch came out,
Yeah,
has
right.
that ever
Yeah.
been wrong?
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah, no, the
so
watch,
handy because
the watch can be
if I
handy.
lose CarPlay, it's on the watch.
You can, if you don't like having your watch buzz you when you're on CarPlay, you can turn off, and it's in, I believe, the watch app. You can control when the watch, yeah. So let me get out of this. How do can I share my screen one last time? So we will do this. No, don't leave, Dave. We'll do, oh no, we will do this, that. Come on, wake up. Here we are. Okay. You can control, if we launch the watch app and we go to the maps setting, you can control when the watch will give you turn alerts. Because and of course it's just personal preference, but if I'm using CarPlay in my car, I don't need nor want my watch tapping my wrist or making noise. I've got CarPlay doing that for me, or not doing it as I've decided. So you can see I've turned it off, that I have turn alerts off if I'm using CarPlay. Now, if I'm not using CarPlay, or if CarPlay ceases to function because, it decided that, then it will go on. And I, of course, get the same with walking and cycling. So that's a handy little, when they added that, I was very happy because
interesting. I much prefer it to CarPlay because CarPlay can come and go. The watch is always on it.
Fair. Yeah. I don't know. I use CarPlay for everything, for managing, like I listen to podcasts while I'm driving. And so I'm always in CarPlay, and yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, there's that. We will stop that. There you go.
I don't have CarPlay. I call it CarPlay in training because I just keep it on a magnetic mount.
CarPlay and train. Yeah. Those magnetic mounts can be a great, that's what Lisa has in her car, because she doesn't have CarPlay in the car she's got. And so she just has a MagSafe mount that's on, on her dash, and it's fine. It's got power. And so she just tosses her phone on there.
Job done.
Yeah.
I am looking forward to CarPlay though.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the way to go. Yeah. It's definitely nice. Yeah.
Bob has talked me into it. So it'll be all Bob's fault.
That's right. There you go.
Are there any other questions for Dave?
Do we have Apple TV users here? I'll share one last tip. Make sure to update to tvOS 17, otherwise this won't work. But once you have your Apple TV remote that you've had for a very long time, now essentially gets Find My capabilities, where you can use your phone to locate your Apple TV remote. Now, this does not happen in the Find My app. Why? I don't know. But it does not. You have to launch on your phone. You launch the Apple TV remote app there, and then you I can probably do this. Let me see.
It's kind of like a fake Find My in a way.
It's fake. It's not entirely Find My, but it'll get you close. It doesn't.
But I'll take it. I'll take it.
Right. It's better than nothing. So if I launch the remote,
when that thing slips into the couch cushions, it's
correct.
It's gonna be nice.
It's just nice to know generally which direction it is. And so if I pull this up, you'll see I have a little find icon next to my TV there. This is super hidden, right? So first of all, I'm in and I need to be really careful that I don't start messing with this, because if Lisa's watching TV, I'm going to hear about it. You have to tap the little TV, and then from the list, I can choose Find, and then it will start giving me directions to my remote. So I'm going to get out of this now, because otherwise I'm going to get in trouble. So
I think they make a distinction too. I want to say it's blue instead of green.
Yeah.
I think when you're using an AirTag, it's a green interface, and when you're using that, I think it's blue.
Yeah. But it should just be in the Find My
iPad. I wish that it worked on the iPad, because there's a remote app on the iPad but it only works with the phone because I tried it. It only works with the phone.
I wonder if it's the, yeah, that's interesting.
I updated
Yeah,
my
because it's
iPad
not ultra
first,
wideband
and I
or
tried it.
anything. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I
Huh.
don't know what kind of technology it's using, but it will only work with iPhones.
It's Bluetooth, but not ultra wideband Bluetooth. So you get proximity, but not direction. But of course, it will intuit direction. If you're walking, it will tell you you're getting farther away. And then, you know, you can use your human brain to realize, opposite direction. Good. To answer
Maybe
your
it'll be
question
in the
about
newer iPads.
2 phones in the car, though, iOS 17 now has something called SharePlay, where
Oh,
if
right.
my phone is connected, other people in the car can add things to the playlist if I invite them.
Right. Because
That
we do that a lot on road trips. So that'll be handy
exactly.
for that when the kids want to play their music. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I like letting somebody else be DJ. You know, I'm driving. You entertain me, you know, like
Yeah,
so.
that's my job as the co-pilot.
Right. Right. Yeah, exactly. So now you
I
get
handle the
SharePlay.
directions in the hotels, and the kids handle the music.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. This is it. Right. A division of labor. Yeah.
Can you uninvite them too if you don't like their music?
You sure
Yeah,
can.
that's the next question.
You sure can. Yeah. Yeah. We yeah, we had gone wine tasting out in Oregon somewhere, and I had refrained at the last stop because I knew we were about I don't know, an hour from where we were staying in Portland. We were kind of southwest in the whatever that valley is there. And my wife and daughter were in the car with me, and they'd had, you know, wine more recently than me.
They tasted wine.
Yeah, they were very eager to play a certain song, and it was fantastic watching them. They couldn't, neither of them could remember my iPhone passcode, and they were trying to get Siri to wake up so that they could control it with Siri. But this was by the point that Siri was like very voice targeted, and so they never did get it to work. But with SharePlay, of course,
Oh,
they
to
would have been
be a
able to.
fly on the wall in that car.
Yep.
That sounds like a blast.
It was, yeah, it was a fun little, they wanted to play Dua Lipa's Levitating. And I'm like, all right, nope, we're definitely not doing it. Not that I have anything against the song. I just, you know, it was like, well, wait a minute. Now this is more entertaining for me than listening to the song. So I'm going to maintain the status quo as long as I can. All right.
Okay, Dave, thank you so much for being our guest speaker here. And if everybody has not already signed up for the Mac Geek Gab podcast, please do so.
I could honestly say I've never listened to a podcast ever.
A podcast, any podcast?
Any
Kevin, for
podcast.
shame.
Come on, Kevin.
It's just I
Look
don't
at the
know.
program.
Yeah.
When I get in the car, I listen to podcasts. I don't listen to radio of any kind. But Dave, we have one more assignment for you.
Okay.
And that is, we would like you to pick tonight's door prize winner by asking your S lady to pick a number between 1 and 29.
Let's see. There's a trick that we learned on the recent Mac Geek Gab, where if you get your watch into a mode where it's listening to you, which in and of itself is a trick, you can simply say things like 5 minutes. You don't even have to say, hey Siri, like it does that. So let me see if I can just wake it up and ask it pick a number without even using the wake word. So let's see if I can wake it up. No, it's not going to work. No, it's just going to stay asleep. Pick a number between 1 and 100. No, it's not going to work. Hey Siri, pick a number between 1 and 100. Are we ready for the number?
Yeah, but it's got to be between 1 and 29.
1 and 29. See, okay, it's not. So let me do this again. Hey Siri, pick a number between 1 and 29. The answer is 1.
I'm number one, and unfortunately, I don't qualify for the door prize.
Well,
So you have to try it again.
Third time's going to be the charm. We'll do it from the phone this time. Hey, Siri, pick a number between 1 and 29. Really, I should have said 2 and 29. 21.
21. 21 is Logan White. Logan, you're still with us, aren't you?
Fourth time's
Well,
the charm.
even though he's not, he's still.
Hey, Dave, I tried Raise to Wake, and I said random number between 1 and 29, and it worked.
It did work. Ah, look at that. The things
Okay.
we
Try
learned.
saying random number.
Yeah, let me see.
So,
It wants to go to sleep. Random. No. I don't know why my watch does this. It wakes.
Dave, it must be that leather band. Leather is so uncool these days.
Leather is uncool. Yeah. Well, I live in I live in a very cool environment. So
Okay.
yeah, I've had lots of synthetic watch bands over time. The leather, I don't know, it's the one that I've never liked a metal band on my Apple Watch. Although I like a metal bracelet on some of the other watches that I wear. So I don't know. Yeah.
Okay.
How it is.
Well, we're going to let you, either go see your lovely bride.
I shall.
And spend the rest of the evening with her, or go get some shut eye. And thank you so much for donating of your time.
My pleasure. Thanks for
Mac
having
Music.
me. This has been an absolute blast. Thank you so much. You folks are a blast.
Thanks for coming
Let's
to
do this again
Tucson,
sometime.
Dave.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you. Come back again.
I will.
Thank you. Thank you.
Feel free to email me if you ever have questions or anything. Feedback at macgeekgab.com gets to us, and that's a great place to find me. So
Was that feedback at macgeekgab.com?
no, it's
I thought he said feedback
at
at geekgab.com.
Easy for
I'm
you
not
to
sure,
say.
but that's what I heard.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good evening.
And Dave, do you have any last words for us?
Yeah, listen, as you're using all of your devices, just do me one favor. Don't get caught.
Okay. Thanks again, Dave. Bob Doms is going to put a link to the feedback form, another one, into the chat. And we ask that everybody click on that now and just leave it there, and later tonight or tomorrow, fill out that feedback form. It really does help us to plan meetings for the future. At this point, we were going to ask Ridge to do his Mac update and security update with us, but unfortunately he's had trouble communicating with Zoom tonight. So I wanted to, so we're basically done, but I wanted to talk a little bit about what we have for you as TMUG members, or the opportunity to have them for you. Going to share my screen and photos and share. Are you seeing looks like you are. You're seeing these photos from Photo Ella?
They're up.
Okay. We got a donation from our new friend Heather. Heather is the daughter of a mug leader from South Jersey Apple User Group. And as her father passed away, she got all of this Apple swag and didn't really know what to do with it. But she now lives in Tucson, and she has kindly donated it to TMUG because she wants to see it go to a good home, and knowing that we will do that. So she's done that for us. And I have put this, the link to this public photos library album in the newsletter. And all of this stuff is available. And like, for example, this nice jeans jacket here, if you click down here, it shows you a jeans jacket and it's a double XL and so forth. And there's a lot of stuff here. Nice golf shirts. And what we specialize in is posters. I have a whole bunch of posters, and thanks to Kurt, who came to my home and helped me unroll these posters, photograph them, catalog them, and inventory them. And so we have a bunch of posters here. This one is the Mac G4 Mac Cube, and we have quantity of 3 of this one.
Wow.
And we have one of these, and so on. I'm going to go back to all of these posters. And here, the Yum poster. There were a
Oh, do you want me to
lot.
put a link in the chat?
If you can put a link in the chat, go right ahead. We have 92 of the Yum posters. So do you have a medium-sized room you would like to paper with nice, colorful Apple gear? This poster is 22 by 28, and we have those available for you as well. If you would like some of the stuff, let me know by email or even by text, and I will set it aside for you. And you can come out here to Vail and pick it up from me. I am not going to deliver it to you, but if you really, really need it delivered, I can mail the stuff to you if you pay the postage. So we have a lot of stuff available. Like here's a hat that Chris Wesselman has decided that he needs to add to his collection. But I have a lot of posters. Here's one that is 24 wide by 70 tall. We only have one of those. So if you want one, you got to let me know. First come, first serve. Anybody have any questions about this free stuff? I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And if that is it, are there any general questions for the group? In that case, it's time to say goodnight. And I hope you enjoyed the meeting tonight. And we will have next month on the 3rd Tuesday of the month. I don't know what the date of that is off the top of my head. We're going to do our annual Geek gift guide. And you saw that Melissa wanted to add something to that Geek gift guide. And I'm pretty sure, since I had to buy some of those coiled cables for connecting my USB-C phone to my car for CarPlay, I think I put that in there as well. So that being said, it was very nice of Dave to give of his time. It's nice to see Steve Parker here. He's in the Central Time Zone, so it's pretty late for him too. So if that's it, good night, everybody. Do the
night.
clean wave here. It's not working, Melissa.
I wonder if I have to be in frame. There we go.
There you go. Lasers. Have a nice holiday and see you next month.
Too much fun. Everybody go out and upgrade.
You need Pink Floyd in the background for lasers.
I can make that happen.